smile as though he was making the arrest. I sat in the car, believe me, and I went 2 straight Saturday nights with them. And when I got home, I felt as if I need to put my soul in the bathtub, because we associated with all the riffraff, and I'll tell you folks, the policemen are bound to pick up some of that. You know, when you associate with somebody who has a lot of germs, I'd say stay away from Mr. Joe Wilkinson now, because he's been having a lot of germs lately. Stay away from him. No, I'm just kidding. But spiritually speaking, a person has germs, you can catch them. And preachers can often do it. One reason preachers go wrong is that they pick up the diseases of those they're trying to help. And you can be partial. Oh, I tell you. And, oh, our policemen, I thank the Lord for them. See, I'm sorry, really, that Scott is a policeman. I'd rather have him preaching. But I can't tell him what I know God wants him to do. I can't say that. But I tell you, I can pray for him, because he needs our prayers for physical protection and spiritual and moral protection. And our policemen do. One reason we can have a class today, and you folks in Norfolk can have your class, called policemen. I wonder, how long has it been? Let me ask. How many of you recently have thanked the Lord for the policemen? Could I see your hands? Very few hands, yeah. I have to speak to myself on these things too. I thank the Lord for them. They're out there with the riffraff so I can preach the gospel, so I can teach the Word of God. But we need to pray for them, partiality and judgment. Anybody who's a leader needs to pray about that constantly. Because, you know, somebody compliments you, and you don't know whether it's flattery or not. But every preacher needs to pray about that. You know, some person will come and say, "Oh, preacher, that was a wonderful sermon. I really enjoyed it." And I think sometimes I've had people say that when I've seen them asleep, when I was preaching. And I felt like saying, "Oh, you enjoyed it? Sure. Anybody enjoys a good nap." See? Little Rebecca was in one of my classes and slept all the way through it. And at the close, the pastor said, "She really enjoyed your class tonight. She slept through every minute of it." See? But I've had people like that come, "Oh, I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. Yeah, you enjoyed a good nap." And be awful careful, folks. You can tell a preacher often whether or not he falls before that sort of thing. And then he's partial to the one who says that. It's a constant temptation to me. It's a constant temptation to anybody. A holy person is impartial. All right, let's take our break. Page 75. First, I want to ask Mr. Tim Driggers, how'd you get along in your meetings?
All right.
You've been going there every year, I think.
3-4 years.
Good. Baptist preachers? Good. Nothing good could come out of a group of Baptist preachers. Yeah, I think everything good can come out when the Lord puts it there. Good. Mr. Tim Driggers, lead our prayer, please.
Father, we do thank thee for the privilege of calling in our Father because of Christ's finished work. Just to ask that thou would open our hearts and our eyes. Father, we just pray that Christ will be magnified. Father, we pray that thou would enable us to make us holy even as thou art holy. Lord, through these lessons and these truths, Lord, we just pray that thou burn us in our heart more and more by the power of the Holy Spirit. In Jesus' name we ask.
Amen. I'm in the act of mentioning these 4 recurring emphases, things that are emphasized in chapter 17 to 20 of Leviticus. The 4th is the importance of the moral law. And here you just have individual characteristics of those who are holy. And then, of course, the opposite is true, individual characteristics of those who are unholy. Chapter 19, verse 16. Thou shalt not go up and down as a talebearer among thy people. 1916. A holy person is not a talebearer. We use the word gossip. I think that talebearer includes gossip, but it includes more than gossip. If I'm a talebearer, then I'm unholy. If you're a talebearer, then you're unholy. One person was speaking of a certain individual who didn't gossip, and he said, by the way, you see, gossip is our language. It's not Bible language. You don't find that in the Bible. But he said, gossip that reached his ears found its grave there. When we who are in official capacity have to watch this carefully before the Lord, because sometimes we have to tell things that have happened in order to deal with the cases when you're in official capacity. But somebody said, now take these 3 rules. Is it true? Well, check whether or not it's true. I used to tell the students in the Bible college, a lot of lies float around here all the time. In any group, a lot of lies float around. You take when you visit after church here. I love to have that visiting, but you probably hear some lies before it's over. Where frail human beings are concerned. Wherever there's, the Bible says, in the multitude of words, there wanteth not transgression. I like to hear people talk. But sometimes you go into a group, they're talking and it's a buzz, you can hardly hear yourself, think, or anything else. But nearly always there's sin going on in there. In the multitude of words there wanteth not transgression. But is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? Well, those are 3 good rules. And they're heart-searching rules. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? Sometimes it has to be necessary in order to deal with the thing officially. And you hear something about a person, and this person is about to take what seems like a false step with that other. It may be you'll have to tell something. But is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? But if I'm a talebearer, a gossip, then I'm not holy. If you're a talebearer, a gossip, then you're not holy. 1932. Thou shalt rise up before the hoary head and honor the face of the old man. 1932. I've been preaching this for a long time. So don't think I'm preaching just because I'm 80 years old. But I've been preaching it for a long time. A holy person respects older people. Respects old people. And if he doesn't respect old people, he's not holy. Now, you say this is the hoary head, but the same principle applies. You take some of you in your own individual contacts with the teachers. Individually, might call those teachers by their first name, but don't do it in class. You've got to distinguish between an official relationship, a student to teacher, and an individual personal relationship. For some of you may call Mr. Wilkinson Joe. Person, don't do it in class. Don't do it in class. That office is ordained by God. And you say he's not exactly a hoary-headed person. No, but he's older. And this applies especially to the old one. The more I think of what they call American literature and English literature, the more I realize a lot of it's just plain old hogwash. But they call it literature. For instance, Oliver Wendell Holmes, he's one of these Unitarian poets up in New England, denied the blood of Christ and everything that's fundamental. And he wrote the poem, My Aunt. How many of you have ever read that? Have you ever read that of Oliver Wendell Holmes? They call it literature. My aunt, my dear unmarried aunt, long years have o'er her gone. And then at the last he says, if I should live to be the last leaf upon the tree in the spring, let them laugh as I do now at that old forsaken bough where I cling. He's saying, I laugh at her. And I'm perfectly willing for others to laugh at me when I get old like that. That's just plain old sin. They call that literature. Just the opposite of the Bible. Respecting older people. And young folks, it certainly applies as far as your parents are concerned. But it applies to a lot in general. You take the fellows at the Bible college often kidded me and all, and I enjoyed it. Because I really brought a lot of it on myself. And you see, I can preach to them, and I respect the older person, but I have my responsibility. I've got to live, so I kind of halfway earn it. But you don't have to earn the basic thing of respecting older people. Boy, you watch a lot of teenagers these days. Man, respect an older person. Why, that's just old-fashioned stuff. No, that's just Bible stuff. That's just Bible stuff. Why is it young people don't respect the older ones? Because they aren't holy. This is another characteristic of a holy person. Go with me for just a moment on the moral law to the 18th chapter of Leviticus. The 18th chapter of Leviticus is another one of these great chapters concerning purity, sexual holiness. The first characteristic here is purity towards blood relatives. Boy, I tell you, that's important. Purity towards blood relatives. And you see, one reason why there's such a temptation here is that there's such a danger of familiarity. You see, you know your blood relatives. And you say, well, I just undressed before blood relatives. You read this chapter. A lot of people have gotten in deep trouble through this. But even apart from the deep trouble, a lot of it's just plain old sin. Just plain old sin. Purity towards blood relatives. Then the second is purity towards those of the same sex. See, again, you have that whole thing that's going on today. I don't hesitate to say these public shower rooms are just filled with potential immorality. You take the football team, they all go and lately they've even tried to admit women to these public shower rooms. How far down the road we've gone. They even fined some person $40,000, wasn't it? Because he wouldn't let the female reporters come into these shower rooms. But I tell you, the whole thing, you say they're all the same sex. But folks, that's just loaded for impurity. That's just loaded for impurity. And sometimes you go into some of these restrooms and people have built those restrooms often to encourage purity. You can't create purity, but you can encourage it. And they have places off so you can be private. I tell you, I believe it with all my heart. Because a lot of this stuff, I don't know, you fellas play basketball. I don't know whether you have a public shower room, shower together. I say, fellas, stay away from that kind of stuff as much as you can. Stay away from it. Purity towards those of the same sex. And then the third is purity towards animals. Oh, the Bible's explicit. It says, if a man commits impurity with an animal, the man is to be put to death and the animal is to be put to death. Boy, that's strong, isn't it? Folks, I tell you, God didn't mean maybe on these things. And he doesn't mean maybe on these things today. See, one reason we have so much of this, the gays so-called and all today, is because we've just excluded God's word from the public schools. And we've excluded God's word from public life. Some of these folks in the media, like on the radio, would say, now don't quote a Bible verse in what you're saying. Don't quote a Bible verse. I'm just glad to quote a Bible verse, and if they want to turn away from it and not put it on the air, let them do it. But I'm going to give them the opportunity to turn down a Bible verse. Somebody said, now, Old Testament, that's for them and not for us. Boy, I tell you, you read it in Leviticus 18, Leviticus 19, you see they are just every bit as much for us today as they were for people in Old Testament times. All right? I've given here several characteristics showing the importance of the moral lie. A holy person loves the poor, pays wages on time, is impartial, is not a talebearer, respects older people. Oh, and here's one more, 19, 33 and 34. He loves the sojourner, he loves the stranger. If a stranger or sojourner don't do him wrong, ye were sojourners in the land of Egypt. Someone told me once this about a Christian who was a policeman, and he was called on the phone one Sunday morning to the First Baptist Church. And there was a person there who was dressed in about 3 or 4 layers of clothes. And they wanted him, he'd come to church and they wanted to take him out of church. First Baptist Church of Columbia. I tell you, how much blessing can they expect over there if they do it? But folks, that's happening in the independent Baptist churches sometimes too. And some folks don't call the police, but they do everything but call the police, because they stay away from that person. Oh, I can't stand that odor. Can't stand that odor. Usually those who can't stand the odor don't smell too good themselves. That's often true. But boy, these laws about holiness, they go deep. They go deep. Look at the next question. How do you explain Leviticus 19, 23 to 25? The law about uncircumcised fruit. What underlying principle is illustrated by this law? Now, review the law for a moment. See, for 3 years, people couldn't eat the fruit of a new tree. Today, you don't follow that. See, but they couldn't eat the fruit of a new tree. Then the 4th year, the whole crop was dedicated to the Lord. They couldn't eat any of that. And then only when it was 4 years old, coming to the 5th year, could they eat it. You see, that's temporary law. But what is the permanent principle that underlies it? The permanent principle is give God the best. Give God the best. You know, somebody might say, oh, here's the 1st year, that fruit tree bearing fruit. I don't want that fruit anyway. I'll just give that to the church. I'll give that to the Lord. And then the 2nd year and the 3rd year, I still don't want that. And then you give it all to the Lord, and then, well, after all, I haven't lost anything much because I didn't want to eat that other. No, but give God the best. Don't give God the leftovers. Now be careful about tithing. I hope you tithe. And any of you smaller children, I don't know whether they're here now. Oh yeah, 1 or 2 of them are here. Smaller children, but they usually vamoose as soon as they get the quarters. But remember, at least 1 penny out of 10, but it is not a sin to give more than a tenth. A lot of folks, you say, that belongs to the Lord, all the rest belongs to me. No, it all belongs to the Lord. It all belongs to the Lord. Not any of it belongs to me. And we tithe as a reminder of the fact that all the rest belongs to the Lord. It all belongs to the Lord. And give God the best. Did I tell you about what the missionary said? There was a new law in missionary stewardship that some woman, I almost called her a lady by mistake, not a lady but a woman, came to the missionary and said, I have some soiled paper towels and I wonder if you could use them on the mission field. Well, that isn't exactly giving God the best, is it? But that's our natural hearts. I've got a heart like that. And some think of me as generous because the Lord's given me a good deal to give without sacrificing. See, I don't have to sacrifice for that. Usually. I have to be careful not to be overdrawn to the bank. But I don't have to sacrifice. It's simple for me. But I tell you, give God the best. Don't give him the dregs or the leftovers. And that's true of your own time. What's the best time to have your quiet time? When you're freshest. When you're freshest, give that especially to the Lord. Don't give him the dregs or the leftovers. How do you explain 1927? Ye shall not round the corners of your heads, neither shalt thou mar the corners of thy beard. what underlying principle is illustrated by this particular law. It's avoid the appearance of evil. Avoid the appearance of evil. Avoid the appearance of worshiping another. Now you see, the background is this. It was temporary, because they had Baal worshipers, B-A-A-L. Baal was the god of nature and centered in the sun. Baal worship was sun worship. And so Baal worshipers, I see one or two looking around to get this. Let me repeat it now for you. It's the avoid the appearance of evil. Avoid the appearance of worshiping another. Baal was the sun god, and Baal worshipers cut their hair and their beards in such a way that they looked like the sun. And so you say, does God tell me today don't cut the hair or beard in exactly the same way? See, it's a temporary law, but the underlying principle is permanent. Avoid the appearance of being a Baal worshiper. You know, today a lot of folks teach the exact opposite of that. For instance, 1 Corinthians 9:22. You know what 1 Corinthians 9:22 says? Paul says, I made all things to all men that I might by all means win some. Of course, the word win in the Greek is sozo. It's the regular word for save, that I might by all means save some. Here's the way a lot of people misapply that today. You're dealing with hippies? Dress like a hippie in order to win him. Well, we're violating that, so that the other day I read of one of these leaders among young people. I'd give you his name if I could remember it right now, but I can't remember it. So maybe God doesn't want me to give it. But he's just teaching this. He says, parents ought to listen to rock and roll music with their teenagers, so that the teenagers will know that their parents love them. That stuff's being taught. See, all things to all men might by all means win some. See, in those days, a person could have said, that man's a Baal worshiper, and I want to win him. Now, he wears his hair and beard like the sun, and so I'm going to wear my hair and beard like he does, so I can win him. God says, don't do it. You're sinning against the Lord if you do it. I think, generally speaking these days, it's very unwise for a man to wear a beard. Very unwise, generally speaking, because it's the hippie type of thing. See, some of the hippies are getting away from it. Some of them are and some of them aren't. But you know, hippies they live out alone and on and never shave, never bathe or anything else like that. And a lot of folks say, well, we bathe, but we just want to dress as much as possible like to win them. Folks, you're not going to win them to real, pure enough gospel living by wearing a beard like that. And that's what this is saying here. Don't wear your hair or beard in such a way that you seem to be following what's false. Don't wear your hair or beard in such a way that you seem to be following that which is false. Oh, we need that today. You see, the idea of never cutting hair and so forth, well, if I never cut mine, it wouldn't make that much difference, really, actually, because I have so little. But I've got real possibilities in the beard. When I don't go out of my apartment, I don't shave day by day if I don't go out of my apartment at all. And if I've been there several days, I've got a pretty good sized beard. Wouldn't take me long to raise one. And you know, these folks often that have the long sideburns come way down here, and then a little side path going out towards the mouth. Man, I could wear sideburns so long and come in like that, so I'd get tickled every time I'd talk. You know, tickled by the hairs. I don't do it. I don't do it. For one thing, I'm an old man, and I think people expect me to dress like an old man. And some of these old men dressed with flashy clothes. Could you imagine me coming out with a yellow necktie, Oh, this sells you to have better rapport with the teenagers. I ain't interested in that. If I can't love them enough to let them know I love them without doing all that kind of junk, then I don't even want to try. And a lot of folks are getting into that these days. They say, oh, he's good with teenagers. Yeah, and I want to tell you, he is awful with teenagers because he's leading them in the wrong direction by the way he dresses. And that's what this is saying here. See, well, but Moses, you tell me this, but I want to win Baal worshipers. I'm going to dress like them. He said, if you go and win them, you're not going to dress like them. By the way, this thing of the long hair, you've seen pictures of Jesus. Does he have long hair? You ever seen a picture of Christ without long hair? And some have even argued, said Christ had long hair. Therefore, we ought to wear hair long. Well, if he did, he was sinning. If he did, he was sinning. Because 1 Corinthians 11:14 says, watch, doth not even nature itself tell you that if a man have long hair, it's a disgrace to him? Nature itself. Somebody say, well, that wasn't in the Bible yet. No, but nature itself was there. And doth not even nature itself tell you? Jesus didn't have long hair. I wonder how short it was. I don't know, but see all the pictures we have, you've heard people say one of the reasons they don't like the pictures of Christ is they make him look too much like a woman. Yeah, that's part of it, long hair. He was sinning against the Lord if he had long hair. 1 Corinthians 11:14 makes it very clear. Do you see how practical and down to earth these things are? You see, some of these things are temporary laws, but they have a permanent principle that undergirds them.
Well,
Yeah.
you can go a step further and explain why the daddy might get long hair.
Yeah. Well, we're coming to that in number 6. So let's wait that for number 6, because I plan to come to Numbers after we're through with Leviticus. He's the walking object lesson of holiness. And so we'll explain that. But that was to separate him from the people. You see, folks are saying, you ought to wear a beard in order to join you with the hippies. No, the Nazarite wore long hair in order to separate him from the ordinary people. Chapters 21 and 22, laws of holiness for the priests, show how these chapters are related to the theme of Leviticus and mention any details that emphasize the theme. I think these chapters 21 and 22 can be entitled Priestly Holiness. Priestly Holiness, special holiness for the priests. Exodus 28 describes the garment that the priest was to wear. Exodus 28:36 says that holy to the Lord was on the mitre of the priest, M-I-T-R-E. The mitre is the crown. The priest had the crown, and on that crown were written the words, holy to the Lord. Holy to the Lord. Oh, how permanent this basic principle is. Everything in my life as a Christian is to be governed by holiness to the Lord. Everything in your life as a Christian is to be governed by holiness to the Lord. Now, I think these chapters illustrate the fact that God does not have a double standard. One standard for the priest, the Christian worker, another standard for ordinary people. But he does have special applications of his high standards for the priest. See, one great illustration of this in chapter 21 and 22 is that the priest was not to marry a widow. You see, God didn't say that to the average person, that here's a person whose husband's died and the man was not marry a widow. God doesn't say that today. The law was temporary, but the priest couldn't marry a widow. Does that mean it's wrong for anybody to marry a widow? No. That means wrong. But there's special applications of God's high standard to those in full-time Christian service. I just like to give illustration of it in the kindred kind. Some of you have heard me say, I know I'm not going to get married again. I've had the one love affair, that's all I want, that's all I'll ever have. I know I'm not going to get married again. Somebody said that the funeral service was rather unusual. And that's part of what's unusual. I just said it to everybody. I know it's God's will for me not to be married again. Well, I'm not saying that anybody whose loved one, life companion dies should not be married again. But I'm saying this, if you're in full-time service, you are called to set the standards of the people by the way you live. And really, it just almost horrifies me when I know of some preacher whose wife died, and just a few months after his wife died, he's married again. Well, particularly if he marries somebody that he'd known while his wife's still living, it just looks terrible. Looks like he had one eye open to that other woman all the time his wife was living. You say, you don't know it? No, but I don't know opposite of it either. And we're called. I know there was one man who spoke at the Bible college and seemed to be just a fine man of God, and he told something that about his sacrificial work. And I know a person in the work quoted him and just referred to him as a great model. Well, a lady told me later that after his wife died, on the first anniversary of her death, she sent a sympathy card to